Welcome to another episode of Wholesome Thinking. The main objective of our conversations is to challenge people's minds and stimulate wholesome thinking by utilizing the gifts that God gave us. This platform is inspired by scriptures, spiritual journeys, perspective, and life. It's important to us that we highlight these conversations to help encourage others on their journey and provide perspective. In 2 Peter chapter 3 it says, "Dear friends, this is now my second letter to you. I have written both of them as reminders to stimulate you to wholesome thinking." If you ever want to join us on Wholesome Thinking, please let us know, and we'll be happy to have you. Our main rules on this platform are commitment, creativity, no cursing, prayer, no judgment. Appreciate everyone for tuning in to listen to episode 5. Today I'm here with the whole team again, JG, Rashad, and Spence. What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
What's good? What's good?
What's up, people? Everything going good?
What's going on, fellas? I hope everybody doing excellent. Hope y'all week is going well. Excited to do another podcast out here with y'all. Hope you a good one.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it again, everybody, for tuning in. Today we got a special episode. Just want to personalize the episode and get you guys familiar with who we are as individuals. We 5 episodes in, and just wanted to talk about our personal journeys and kind of how we got to where we are and where we are today and how we all connected, and just provided you guys with some background. The question of the day is, if you had to tell your life in 5-year increments, what would you say? And how would you tell your story? So we'll all be individually sharing our stories individually. We hope to hear from anybody willing to tell their 5-year increment stories with us and share it with us. JG, Shy, Spence, who want to go first?
It don't matter to me. I was gonna let you go first, but
Let me go first.
let you lead us all.
I got you. So I've had to tell my life in 5-year increments, man. I'm from Petersburg, Virginia. I come from a 2-parent household, 0 to 5. Both my parents are from Baltimore and Philadelphia. We had no family down here. I'm the only child. They did their best, like just raising me. My mom and my dad, they both worked. I remember my mom working a full-time job raising me, and my dad working night shifts and 7 days on and 7 days off at a correctional facility. So that was the structure of my household, bro. We ended up moving right when I went to, I think it was like kindergarten, to a different area in Petersburg, and my parents ended up sending me to a Catholic school. So that first 5 to 10 years I was in Catholic school, elementary school. I was there until 8th grade. Throughout my life, my parents, they pushed me to succeed in all things. I played all sports growing up. They kept me active in the community, active with my friends. I didn't have any siblings at all. So a lot of my family was close with. 2 of my cousins, man, they were like brothers to me. So just meeting y'all, of course, I understood the connection. But in the beginning, bro, it was just me. And I remember like asking my mom and dad like pretty much every weekend, like, could my friends come over, because I ain't have really nobody to play with, bro. Like, it was just me dolo by myself. Didn't really have anybody. But, my parents kept me active. We traveled all over the place. I was a spoiled kid for the most part, bro. Had pretty much everything I needed, everything I wanted. Did good in school. Didn't have too many issues at all. 10 to 15. I just skipped to 14, actually. Probably 10 to 13, everything probably the same. Up until the 8th grade, my parents had to make a decision. So I had to go to private school. I went to a Catholic school, like I said earlier. And they had to make a decision whether they wanted to send me to a public school or not, bro. And I used to be so mad at them for this decision, bro, because it pretty much changed my life for the most part. So I lived maybe 5 minutes from the high school, public school that I should have been going to. Mom Duke's just like, nah, we're not sending you there. Like, she letting me know off rip, like, I can't go there. And I used to be so mad at her because all of my friends, we used to go to this summer camp called sports camp. Shout out to everybody that went to sports camp, man. All my friends is going to this high school, bro. Like, we was raised in this rec program, since I was a kid, since I was 3. So I've been playing in all these rec programs with them. I'm used to playing with them in different sports. Super active, super involved. And I just thought I was going there. Mom had other plans. The story behind that is, my mom worked in Petersburg. She was like director of Parks and Leisure Services, a lot of people know. And this lady came up to her and was like, hey, if you want the best for your child, send them to this school. And she ended up sending me to the school, bro. Like, she prayed on it and she sent me. And I went to a school like 30, 40 minutes down the road, fellas. Like, I was nowhere near close to home at all. So she just wanted to instill different values in me that I needed to take out into the real world that I didn't understand at that time. All I wanted to do was hoop and play ball. I played baseball, basketball, and football. Found out that the school had a football team, so that aligned. My 8th grade year, we actually playing the school I'm supposed to be going to in like a Christmas tournament. I never forget this day. So I'm hooping, play well. We end up losing or something like that in the tournament. And my parents like, hey, we got to go into this meeting right after the game. Like I'm going in there sweating, fellas. Like I really remember this vividly. I got my whole uniform on. I'm going to the office with the athletic director, and they kind of telling me about the school, and I'm like, this brings me no interest. Like I don't I don't care nothing about this school. I'm not going to this school. I'm mad as I don't know what. And my parents actually end up meeting with them by themselves. Like they let me go back into the gym, and they start telling them about the school. They come out and like, yeah, you're gonna be going to this school next year. End up going to the school. Crazy adjustment for me culturally. I was isolated from my friends. Had to adjust on the fly. And at first, throughout my high school career, man, I adapted well. I understood what my mom was talking about by the time I became like a junior, senior at that school. Set a lot of records in all sports. Thought I was going to college to play baseball. And I never forget, this was the first time I realized, like, bro, I was upset with God, bro. Like, I was really upset. My boy hit me up. We in the state playoffs in the tournament, and we're about to go to the championship, actually. Actually going to states. First team, all state, getting all these awards and accolades. And he like, hey, Yerb, these people talking trash at the Y. You want to go down there and hoop? And I'm like, yeah, it's during baseball season, but I'm like, yeah, I go. Like, whatever. It's you all kids, y'all know how it is. Like, you're going to play different sports while you playing another sport mainly. So we go down there, bro. And I like go up for a layup, make the layup, cool. I start walking, and I start limping, and I can't walk no more. And I broke my fifth metatarsal, just like Kevin Durant. The fifth metatarsal is on the outside of your foot. Everything's over at that night, bro. Like same night. I remember the drive back home, and my boy is like, man, I can't believe this happened or whatever. I get home, my dad and my mom, like, you could just tell they was sad but disappointed at the same time because they knew like something was wrong. I ain't never broke anything. And they knew like the trajectory of my life was about to change forever, technically. So end up not going to school for nothing. And so skipped the freshman year. So this is 18. I remember moving day. So during moving day, I'm now a regular person, so to speak. So I've been used to being an athlete. I'm not used to not being involved or just having a regular life. So I just was like, bro, this is weird. Like I'm not feeling this. Like I feel out of place. I feel awkward. I feel lost. And almost ended up flunking out of school, bro. Like that first semester, I had like a 1.2. By the grace of God, I have no idea how they kept me at the school. I never forget I had this life-changing conversation with my mom. I was about to go to the military. She's like, baby, you can't go to the military, baby. You can't go to the military. Like my mom did, like seriously telling me that. And I'm like, I don't know what else I'm going to do, man, because I can't figure this stuff out. And she was just like, look, God got a plan for you. You just got to be able to adjust and stay disciplined and focus and get into that library. And so that's what I did for the next 4 years, bro. Made it out of there. But during that time, it was an adjustment period because I was just so used to being on the run with a schedule and a routine of playing 3 different sports every single year. And then I started realizing that I need to bring sports back into my life. So I ended up being a basketball manager at Long University. Ended up actually getting on a coaching staff. Did that for like 3 to 4 years. After that, I get my master's in counseling. So let me back up a little bit. So the second time, I'm getting offered all these positions to go coach. And this is the first time I'm like a grad assistant or something, and I'm about to get promoted. And so I about to get these offers after the Final Four. I remember come back home, and I end up playing basketball again, and I break the other foot. So by this time, my grandparents have moved into my parents' house. They start taking care of them or whatever. And so I decided to move back home, get my master's. And so I could no longer pursue the coaching career at the collegiate level. So I wanted to be a coach by 26, head coach, wanted to win the Final Four, had all these dreams and goals, man, and couldn't do it. Like God would not allow me to do it because he had something else planned, and I couldn't for the life of me understand what it was. And so this is like 23, 24. And so skipping to the last 5 years of my life, maybe 6 years up to the 31 now, it's been life changing. After getting my master's, man, I end up working at social services, and I just been getting to see different walks of life. You know, when you coaching these players, you start seeing a different realm, so to speak, of the world, and everything's given to you. You know, you are in a way privileged, even if you come from nothing. If you're a player, if you're an athlete, if you're a coach, any of that in that sports industry, man, it's a different lifestyle, and you don't really understand the real world until you back into it, because you've been doing these schedules and everything every single year. Things are not adding up. When you get out, it's like, nah, real life hits you, and you got to be able to adjust. And I think being able to go into career in social work really taught me that, oh no, people have been living like this since I left out of high school. And being able to see that helped me gain a perspective about life, and the help that people need in this world. And so by this time, meet my wife, we actually went to school together. We ended up getting married. And just to fast forward a little bit, fellas, ended up meeting Spence. But at that time, when I came home, I broke my foot. I ended up coaching high school basketball, and ended up meeting Jerron. We coached for that year together. He leaves, and then we reconnect when I finished my master's, and I'm working at a job, and I end up moving to my house. He's coaching up the street at Midlothian High School. We end up rekindling the relationship. He let me come on the staff, and we end up growing a bond. End up meeting Spence through my wife's best friend. He ended up marrying her. We connect, and then I connect with Rashad. During the time that I started coaching with Jerron, I have no inclination about anything that we're doing right now, fellas. Like, no, I'm just living life, having fun. I'm not doing anything. I'm just having a good time, indulging things that I shouldn't be indulging in. And then over the past 2 years, things just start kind of changing. Like, I pretty much stopped training. I was a personal trainer for like 7 straight years, trained professional athletes, kids, high school athletes, very well known. And I just put everything down. I wasn't fulfilled anymore. Like, sports wasn't doing it for me, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because, me and Janae got together and we got married, and I just started looking at life differently. I really don't know. I can't tell y'all. But over this past year, God just kind of took over my life. And I can see that he placed you guys in my life for this platform. And so I say all that to say that, like, throughout my life, those 2 times that I broke my foot, man, that changed everything. It stopped me from being able to move. It disabled me in a way. I had to pretty much use my mind in those moments and start looking at other people and seeing how they move, and learning about their life and engaging differently. And I'm saying that I got to use a lot of those skills now. And the traumatic part of that time was when I broke my foot the second time. My grandparents came and lived with my parents, and I gained a better relationship with them. And so when they passed away, man, I felt like I lost everything. I lost them a year apart from each other. So that was a tough time for me, and there was a lot of grieving through that process. And then I just started learning that a lot of people go through this every single year, bro, in different ways. Whether it's the broken foot, you hear about the athletes that never make it, whether it's their parents dying at a young age, whether it's going to a new school and they got to be able to adjust. So just so many different things, fellas. So that's kind of what I could say in 5-year increments for my life. I know that's a lot of information. I know we're gonna get into some more stuff later on. I'm gonna probably think of some more stuff as we talking. But yeah, man, who next, bro?
I can go next. It's hard to follow up that, but I'll do my best. My life, starting from 0 to 5. I was born August 1994, Long Island, Virginia, country boy. A two-parent household, raising a two-parent household all my life. I lived in Long Island, Virginia growing up. I don't remember a lot from this time period, but my parents took a bunch of pictures, kept a lot of my significant moments in a scrapbook. Anytime I'm home, I can go back and look at that and kind of remember those time periods from like my first birthday party, pictures with my grandparents who have now passed away. And during this time, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, specifically my mom's side, because they were the ones who watched me while my parents were at work. So I spent a lot of time 0 to 5 with them specifically. Age of 5, my younger brother was born. In the age of 5, I started kindergarten. 6 to 10, remember going to school, meeting a lot of my closest friends. Remember spending the holidays with family. A lot of those special moments. Growing up during this time, every Sunday, each side of my mom's side and my dad's side, we would all have family dinner at my grandparents. So all my aunts and uncles, cousins on both sides, we would gather at my grandparents' house and have family dinner every Sunday. Like, it was like every Sunday we used to go to one, leave there and go to the next. So I spent a lot of time with family growing up during that time. Started playing football during that time. I think it was the age of 7 or 8, started playing little league football. That's when I really started to really get into playing sports and loving sports. And like every young kid, wanted to be a professional athlete. As you can see, that did not work out for me. But yeah, from 11 to 15, I continued playing sports. A lot of the family traditions continued, specifically like Thanksgiving. We would gather at my grandparents' house, both sides, Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day, you name it, any holiday, Easter, any holiday. A lot of my family, both sides, would gather together. I see all my aunts, all my cousins, and it'd be just like a big family reunion, literally every holiday, or like I said earlier, every Sunday. My brother and I started getting closer during this time as I became a teenager. I remember he would say he wanted to be just like me as we were getting older. Older at the age of 12 is when I suffered my first loss that was really close to me. I lost my granddad on my dad's side, which is the first time I really grieved a person, something totally new. It hit me hard because I have a lot of fond memories. He would, a lot of time my dad used to cut hair. So a lot of the times my granddad, we would spend moments, he would come to my parents' house and my dad would cut his hair. I remember those moments. I remember moments where he was sick and we would have to carry him to take him to his dialysis appointment. So a lot of special moments in those car rides and him coming to he would pick me up sometimes. He know I love tractor trailers, so he would take me to Walmart, give me a toy, specifically a tractor trailer. Love that. So a lot of those special moments during that time. And so when I lost him, it hurt. Like any person that you lose someone that's close to you, especially that first one when you've never lost somebody in your family. Continue playing sports in school. Let's see, 16 to 20. This is a high school. Met another more of my close friends. Actually, I met Rashad, who's actually on this call with us. I met him middle school, which was the previous 11 to 15. And he's been like my brother ever since. 16 to 20, going through high school, still playing sports, hanging out with friends, doing what teenagers do. Graduated high school, went off to college, and I think this was probably one of the most important time periods in my life because growing up, I was really sheltered growing up, so I didn't see a lot, especially coming from where I'm from, a country boy. Me and Rashad, we both went to a relatively small high school, so we didn't see a lot. And going off to college is when um, I was influenced by a lot of different people and doing things that I didn't normally do, especially growing up and doing things that my parents didn't teach me. And so I was thankful, especially during this time period, for one of my friends, Rashad, and other close friends that I had in my circle that kind of helped me grounded, especially during this time period where I was being influenced by others. They weren't around like they were in high school. So coming home, doing college breaks and over the summer and seeing them and just them reminding me and helping me keep me grounded to be the person that I was raised to be. In college, met a lot more of some friends that I still talk to and hang out with to this day. Suffered another major loss. This was my second major loss. My aunt, who she was very significant in me growing up, especially with sports. All my cousins played football, high school football specifically, and she was the one that would take me all to all the games. My parents, they weren't into going into a lot of games, so they would let me go with my aunt. She would take me to my cousin's games. He played in college. Those long car rides down to North Carolina. Spent a lot of time with her watching sports. She took me to my first program. So that second loss was definitely significant. She watched me play all through Little League, high school, and when she got sick, it was when I went to college, and she never got to see me play college ball, which still sticks with me to this day. During this time period, I graduated college, moved into the workforce. This is when, like Real said, it's a different change when you go from playing sports all your life and having this routine to now going into the workforce. It was a significant change, a different routine for me, but it took some time to transition. It was hard for sure, but graduated, entered the workforce. I started applying to jobs, didn't get anything really coming out of college. Took them like 6 to 8 months. I wanted to get more to finance banking industry, but never really got any hits in that world. So Well, 6 to 8 months later, I got a position at VDOT, which kind of connects this whole life story and how I met some of the significant people in my life. Started being on my own. I moved out maybe a year or two after graduating and getting into the workforce. Started defining myself and being the man that I wanted to be. Started my career at VDOT, and at VDOT is where I found my now wife. We were used to work together. We were in this program at VDOT together where we met. How I met my wife is how I met Terrell. My wife and his wife are best friends, so that's how we during that time period when me and my wife first started dating. That's how I met Terrell. Him and his wife had recently started dating, and we started hanging out and we connected. It was like literally that first Friendsgiving party. We chopped it up and been brothers ever since. It's kind of how I met him during that time period, 26 to 30, current time period right now. Married, the love of my life. Um, Started more thinking about the future during this time period and the life I want to build, especially now that I'm married. Started wanting to make sure that my wife is taken care of, essentially, and I'm making sure as we grow old together that everything is in place, which is this during this time period is how I met JG, connecting with Rail. We would all be over Rail's house watching football, talking, having a good time, eating. Me and JG connected specifically over sports. He used to play sports. I used to play sports. So, and we would be over there watching the game. And as we started doing these Wednesday calls that Rail started, I got to hear more and more about him, and we became closer. And now we're doing a podcast together, so I appreciate that relationship we have built and still building today. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Still growing, trying to get better every day. But that's my life in 5-year increments.
I really appreciate you sharing that, Spence. I figured I left a lot of stuff out of my story listening to you, bro. So I appreciate you sharing that, man. All right, man. Who next?
All right, I'll go next. So, birth to 5. Was born actually in North Carolina. Moved to Blacksburg, Virginia. I think when I was after a year, when I was like a year old, and up to 5 years old, I think I was really just kind of exploring my surroundings a bit. It was like I first realized I could do things that other people couldn't do. I was always taller than my classmates or peers around me that was like the same age. So I kind of realized that I was capable of doing things that they weren't, in part because of that. And really, it was just kind of like my parents were always, even at that early of an age, making sure that I was aware of my surroundings and that I kind of had some sort of understanding of who I was and what that meant in the context of where we lived and the environment around us. My parents, I was actually talking to them this past weekend. My parents always said that they always tell this story that like I could read like earlier than they expected me to. Like I had the ability to read, and they would always read me stories. And when they would mess a story up, I'll always correct them. Even when it seemed like I wasn't paying attention, like I was playing with toys or whatever, and they were reading me a bedtime story. Or, Dad said sometimes he would even mess the story up on purpose to see if I was paying attention, but I would always stop what I was doing and correct him on the story and be like, that's not what that says. That's just the part where such and such happens. He always that stood out to him a lot from when I was younger. It was like, I just would always be aware, and I think they kind of developed that in me, but I just had this like awareness of things, even if my attention seemed like it was elsewhere. From 6 to 10, just continued to learn about who I was in the context of history. I remember we had like encyclopedia sets in the house, and I would read through all the pages, and then I would just go back to the stuff that I was interested in. I just always like really enjoyed reading. And my dad got these like African American history set, and it would be like short books on historical figures like Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey. And so the history of our people was always important to my parents, and they passed that on to me. Just having that knowledge of, great African American figures throughout history. And so that kind of birthed my like interest in history as well. Again, this is like from 6 to 10, I was like very passionate about reading and learning and just soaking up as much knowledge as I could. I was also kind of learning through that, and then my experiences as well, that I was just different from those around me. And it was something that I think in retrospect, I was kind of hesitant to kind of step into that fully. I've always been one to kind of just be with the guys or be with my friends, and more prone to kind of blend in and stand out, so to speak, even though, like I said, I was always taller than everybody. And I just it was very evident early on that I was different from my peers and my friends and things like that. My sister was born during this time too. So I became a big brother. Me and my sister have always been super close, even though there's an age gap there. We've always been super, super close. And I always remember asking my parents all the time for a sibling when I was younger. Like, I always wanted siblings. That came to pass during that time period. 11 to 15 was middle school. And that's when I started kind of developing specific interests, growing in the things that I was passionate about, setting goals, and then really trying to have a vision around those goals about how I was going to achieve them. I mean, I owe a lot of that to my parents. They instilled that in me, to set goals and, take steps to achieve them. Struggle versus mediocrity. Again, I think this stems from just wanting to blend in a little bit more because I was taller than everybody and stood out in that way. I kind of wanted to offset that with my personality a little bit, and it kind of led me to kind of temper down my strengths more so than I should have. Almost as if I was like a kind of apologetic for who I was and the things that I was good at. I kind of tried to de-emphasize that a little bit because I always felt that I just stood out anyway because of my height. My vision started coming into focus for the future when I was very young, probably before I was 5. I remember I have a vivid memory of sitting with my dad watching a UNC basketball game, and I said, I want to play there one day. Like, I want to play for that team one day. And I think it was like the way I said it kind of like struck my dad a little bit, because that's another one of his favorite stories. He always says, before you even knew what you were talking about, you said you wanted to play college basketball. I had been playing basketball throughout the years. My dad was my coach for a lot of those years. And so the vision started coming into focus a little bit more going into like 8th grade. Was like, I could kind of see like there might be a path to a future where I could achieve that goal of playing after grade school. Also, during this time period, I believe I was 12, was the first time I remember really being moved in church by the message and by, at the time, I didn't know that it was the Holy Spirit. In retrospect, I could definitely say that was the case, but I just remember I was in the choir and I used to sit next to the pastor's son in the choir. And one particular Sunday, I was just moved to tears actually by the message, and answered like the altar call, like went down. And they didn't do baptisms at that church for some reason. So he kind of did like more like sprinkled the water on my head and prayed over me when I came down to the altar. But I was moved enough to kind of take that step. I didn't know what to do. Like, the pastor's son was kind of like, do you want to go down to the front? And I said, yeah. So he walked down there with me. That was like a significant moment where I just really feel the first time I really remember like listening to the word of God and just being moved to respond in some way, even though I really didn't know how at the time. 16 to 20, just like learning more about accountability, or being taught more about accountability, becoming more and more passionate, seeing more success when it came to my interests. Was a pretty good student academically, but my main focus, if I was being completely honest, was sports, specifically basketball. And I was put in a lot of situations where I would be uncomfortable and just have to deal with it. I remember going to visit family and just getting dropped off at the gym at a local high school with their varsity team. And they were going through a workout and I was on the side just shooting around. And then when it was time to play pickup, they just picked me up. I was just out there and just had to like figure it out. There was a lot of situations where I went to like a sports camp that was out of town, stayed with a friend of my parents. So again, just trying to put me in as many uncomfortable positions as possible so that I would learn to adjust on my own without really having somebody there to. These were all safe situations, but they were uncomfortable because I was just used to being in a bubble in my hometown, being around people I knew, being around friends. And so they wanted to put me in situations where it was challenging for me to emphasize my strengths and, have those kind of show up in a different context. And these were lessons that remain valuable to me to this day. But definitely learned to step out of my comfort zone, really embrace like drive and ambition towards just like higher achievement. Switched high school was actually because of my parents' employment situation. We moved actually the summer before my senior year in high school. And so we relocated, new state, and kind of had to figure that out. So all those lessons that I learned from being in different environments and having to kind of acclimate to that without the help of familiarity, friends, and, my immediate family, that came into play a lot my senior year, making new friends, finding a way to thrive in, my interests athletically, academically, and things like that. Having to figure that out in a new context with only really a year to do it before I was going to go to college. And then, also during that time, earned a scholarship to play basketball in college. Left for college during that time after my senior year, and then just started to embark on that journey. 20 to 25 was a good period. I had a lot of dreams and goals that I was able to realize and achieve during that time. Began a more serious faith walk at 21. Became involved with FCA campus ministry. Made friends with a lot of other Christians on campus. And I've told Yerby about this before, but this was a time in my life where God was really moving on that campus, and I was a part of that. Fortunately, there were a lot of people who came to know the Lord during that time, or them attending some of the events that we organized on campus. But that was a really powerful time in my life that I'll never forget that. I'll always remember that time as being like one where my faith really grew. God really showed himself to me, and he really kind of showed me just even a small bit of what he's capable of doing through those who truly believe in him and live their lives for him. And it was just again, it was an experience that I'll never forget. In addition to that, my own personal adversity that, I found strength in my faith during that time. We had injuries. I essentially had 2 broken legs due to just overworking myself when it came to basketball. So I had stress fractures that didn't heal. Had to get surgery, major surgery on each leg. Coming back from that and trying to get back to feeling like myself just overall in life, overcoming a lot of doubt when it came to just trying to get back to myself as far as who I was athletically, but also just trying to reestablish my identity as a person, because I had never dealt with any injury before that point. And the game that I loved and kind of put so much into for such a long amount of time was pretty much taken away from me. For the better part of a year and a half, up to 2 years, I wasn't able to play. So it gave me a new perspective, not only on the game, but also on life. It was then during that time period where I just, did a lot of observing from the bench when I wasn't even able to play, that I thought that I would want to coach one day. If I had the opportunity, that I would really enjoy coaching, because again, it just gave me a different understanding of the game from a different perspective. So just having, my faith in God strengthened during that time to overcome adversity and to kind of realize and redefine who I was, not so much dependent on my athletic ability, but also just kind of discovering some other things about myself. There was a time where before my faith was strengthened, I went through a period of time where I was really far from God and just kind of doing my own thing and trying to figure out stuff on my own, and that just didn't really go well. So thankful that I was able to have another chance when it came to that. Learned a lot about relationships during that time, friendships, and as I grew and kind of really was able to fully appreciate the freedoms I had during that time period, and the independence that I had being away from home. It really kind of helped shape me into who I am today. So 21 to 25 was a really important time frame in my life. I was also able to achieve a professional career with basketball for a couple of seasons, which was always a goal of mine as well. And it allowed me to see different areas of the world, experience different cultures, and kind of get outside of the box that is like the United States and kind of have an understanding and appreciation for how people in other parts of the world live. So that kind of cultural shock, cultural experience was really beneficial to me as well. To 30, was coming to grips with kind of, the reality of like basketball doesn't last forever. People can say that to you as much as they want. It really don't hit home until you start to feel it. And you start to know that like, hey, yeah, this is coming to an end. Like, can't do some of the stuff I used to be able to do. My body is not responding in the same way that it once did. And at that time, from like probably age 25, I really wasn't taking care of myself the way I should have been. I moved away from home. I moved out of my parents' house, and just really started to try to find my own way in the world. All them times that I was placed out of my comfort zone back in the day, I kind of just went to that, and I was like, I'm gonna just go figure this out. Like, didn't really have a whole lot of money, even from playing professionally. I didn't manage that well, and so I didn't have a whole lot when I left. But I just was like, I determined to kind of figure it out and do what I needed to do. Move far away from home. This is when I was in the Boston area around this time. My parents were in North Carolina. Even though I myself left of my own volition and went out on my own to try to figure it out, I still was trying to duck responsibility. Even though it was all on me, I was like still in denial when it came to that. Like, after all the years of the discipline that I had to practice over the years, I kind of wanted to relax for a little bit, and kind of just enjoy myself a little bit more from some of the times that had to miss some things or pass up on that for athletics and things like that. I wanted to go back to like a more carefree time where I didn't have responsibilities, where things were easier. Man, when I used to train in the summers in the off season for basketball, like, I would train hard. Like, I'd be in the gym 6 to 8 hours a day, spread out over the course of the day. But when I wasn't in the gym, I was taking naps on the game. Like, me and my boy used to be on Tiger Woods Tough back in the day. Like, I just long for those days when I got bills now. I got to get myself to and from work. Like, I got real responsibilities. I got to figure out like what I'm doing with my life. And all I wanted to do was go back to the days where I was just in the gym or playing Tiger Woods, like, for real. Cause it was a shock and it was a lot to deal with at that time. And I didn't handle it the best, for sure. But what comes with growing up in adulthood. 31, 35, became a father. I moved back to Virginia, got married during that time frame as well. Actually, I was married the last stage, but then became a father from 31, and moved back to Virginia and felt a strong urge that, like, the whole move to Virginia was basically predicated on faith, because we just felt like the things we wanted to do, we couldn't do in the Boston area. We weren't in position to kind of start a family and do that in a way that made sense. And so had the opportunity to come back to Virginia. I met my wife in college in Virginia, so we came back to the area. During this time, Yerby said, we met on the coaching staff and then reconnected on a different coaching staff a couple years after. And so I was really pursuing the coaching career at that point, coaching varsity basketball. Slowly started coming back into my faith, and then was just really focusing on like career achievements. And then this brings us to the present. Established a really good friendship with Yerby. And like I said, spent a lot of time together, and kind of building that trust and building that bond. Even outside of coaching now, neither one of us coach anymore. So that remains strong. Experienced like a spiritual revival and had my faith restored, and now like really trying to walk close with God every single day. Found a renewed sense of purpose and direction. And that kind of leads to where we're at now. I met both Spencer and Rashad through Yerby. Met Spencer during the time leading up to Yerby's wedding. Met Rashad later on at a men's retreat. The men's retreat was really key, like where we all got to spend time together and really get to know each other a little bit more, and kind of like got to observe each other's strengths, which kind of led to the formation of the podcast. And so very fortunate to have met all of y'all on this journey. And I really truly believe this is only the beginning. I can't wait to see what's what's ahead for all of us. And yeah, I'm excited for it, but grateful to know y'all, grateful to be able to do this with you guys and grow with y'all as well.
No doubt. Thanks for sharing that, JG. Appreciate you, bro. All right, Rashad, last but not least, brother.
All right, so man, it's cool just hearing y'all stories and everything like that. So I like JG said, I kind of have notes because I don't know, it's just kind of how it keeps me organized with what I want to share. And so I was thinking, this is kind of like telling our story, right? You always hear stuff like you see your page 100, but you never seen your page one. So I like doing it in chapters. And so 0 through 5, that would be like the chapter of childlike faith and fun. And I was born in Anchorage, Alaska. I remember a lot that I did, all the trouble I got into with our dog. Was like half wolf princess, and she was like my best friend. And then everything that she did, she would eat my ice cream. She would take a lick of my ice cream or bite at me. I bite at her back. But we were always by each other, and she was always my protector. And then we moved to from Alaska to Texas, and that's where my brother was born. And so living in there, and just all I knew was just still finding ways just to have fun with wherever I was at. Always trying to get into stuff, playing with little mini hoops in the house and things like that. Just trying to find ways to do that. And then my brother comes along, and now I have somebody else to eventually try to have fun with as we get older. But I just knew that I was just going to be, I was always the one that wanted the attention. I would always want to be with grandma, grandpa, or I'd be the ones waiting for my dad to come back to the door, and I'd be wobbling and running to the door and stuff like that, just because I knew it would be time to have fun and things like that. And then we moved to Georgia, and that's kind of where I started kindergarten and first grade. So that would be 6 through 10. But this is when like the uneasiness and disappointment chapter would come in, right? And because it was cool at first because I was so young and I didn't understand what moving around and being in the military, like what that consisted of. And then probably from Georgia and then Hawaii from 6 to 10, I started making friends and realizing that I don't get to keep these friends always because we're going to move in a couple of years. So then I realized I started to make friends with people in classes. Now I'm in school and stuff, and I'm starting to build like cool relationships and fun relationships just as a young kid. And then we're moving, and I've never seen these people again. And so we went to Georgia, and that's where I started like school, first grade, kindergarten, first grade, second grade a little bit. And then we moved to Hawaii, where I finished up second grade and did third grade and a little bit of fourth. And it was just knowing that I can now feel it like it's going to be here for maybe a year or 2 years. So really kind of what's the point of having friends? And at that point, I knew I always had my brother. And as you realize that's the only person that's going to be there and be consistent with you, you're always with each other. It doesn't always build the fairy tale relationship where it's always going to be happy and stuff like that. Because me and my brother used to always fight and argue because we were just so different from each other. But that's all that we had because he was going through the same thing. So 11 to 15, this chapter is the fitting in and the identity. Because the start of those years I'm in California, and the same thing, I have this wall up, and I'm really not really trying to build friends and stuff like that because I know I'm just gonna leave them. Like, yeah, I'm gonna have friends, but I don't want to be too attached to continue to be hurt again because I know what that hurt felt like. And so we're living in California. We start to build some good friends in the sense where we're always doing stuff. And living in the desert, there wasn't really a lot to do. So we used to do things like catch lizards, like run through the desert, not really worry about a snake or anything like that. And just having fun as kids playing in like 100-degree heat all the time. This is when we started to really start playing sports. It started probably, this is where I can really remember sports being a big thing. And I wanted so bad to be good at sports. And I always felt like I was always like the role player or the average player, while my little brother was like the star. And I remember like in his league, we was playing flag football in California, and everybody knew there was 3 guys on 3 different teams, and it was my brother was one, the running back on another, and the receiver on the other. And everybody knew like anytime you watch them play, it's gonna be like a movie. Everybody wanted to see them play each other. My brother was like, everybody called him Michael Vick and stuff, and I didn't have the nicknames, right? So this is kind of I was like, man, what's my identity and stuff like that. That's kind of where that started because I was playing on teams and I was a great role player, but I had the superstars on my team that kind of overshadowed, and offenses in basketball to run through them, or I would want to play receiver, but I was too short and the guys there were like 2, 3, 4, 5 inches taller than me. And so they're the receivers and they're faster than me and all this stuff. And even though that my dad was coaching me There was never favoritisms. And that was the one thing that my dad made sure that never happened was we never had favoritism. You're going to earn every single thing that you have. And if you're not good enough to play at that position, then guess what? You're not going to play at that position. You better work at it. And so I always wanted to figure out what was really going to be my identity because my brother was getting all the accolades. He was winning. He was all of this. And me, I was trying to figure it out. And so we moved to Virginia. And this is kind of the point where this is around, like, I think this is like 14, it's like seventh grade, seventh, eighth grade time frame. And this is when I know we're going to like settle in. So now I'm saying, okay, we're done moving. Maybe I can really start to try to build friends. And that's when the first time I played tackle football because on Army bases, you couldn't play tackle football. We played flag. And so I remember going out and I was like, okay, I'm in a new place. This is my chance for me to really prove myself to be the star athlete and stuff like that. And in Little League, I was on second string, so I didn't even move with the first string my eighth grade year. And I remember this is kind of where Spence and Devontae came into my life, and we're at practice, and I'm the running back, and I'm like, cool, I'm finally at like an important position, cool. And they're like, everybody's like, hey, when the other Pennell come out here, you're gonna lose your spot. I'm like, man, ain't no other Pennell. Y'all know who I am. My dad's Jeff. I'm gonna be an athlete. I played football all my life, flag football to be honest, not tackle. And so Tay comes out and Tay takes my spot. And so, man, I now like, man, he really did. This other Pennell really did come take my spot. And that's kind of when I became friends with Tay. And he eventually moved up the first string. I ended up going back to second string running back. Enjoyed that, really learning just how to understand how to play tackle football. And then that's when I said, okay, this is going to be a time where I'm really going to fit in and understand how to do that. And so I met Spencer around this time too. And I was so accustomed to being walled off, I didn't understand how to really associate and develop friendship back. So this is getting closer to the 15-year-old, so 14, 15. And I remember I thought making friends was just showing the cool stuff that I had. So I would always be like, hey guys, want to come to my house? I have the little mini motorcycles, I have basketball hoops, I have all the games, because one of the cool things that I think my brother and I was blessed with was we never really had a want. My dad always made sure that we had what we wanted, but only after we earned it. And so I felt like we had all the cool toys, and I was like, man, let's have people over. That's how I build friends. And I was that annoying kid that didn't really know how to understand emotions and stuff. And my two friends was Tay and Spencer. And I would ask them questions, or I'd talk to them all the time, or contradict them or argue with them. And they'd be like, man, shut up. And I wouldn't speak for the whole day. That's kind of like how, because I didn't know how to fit in. And I was just like, I want friends so bad because I'm finally here. I know I'm not going to leave. I just wanted friends. And so I would annoy the crap out of them where they didn't even like me at first. But they continued to allow me to come around and stuff like that. So then kind of 16 to 20, this was kind of, high school into college. And I think this was really where I started to continue knowing that, hey, this trend of me being this role player in athletics was really kind of where I was. I remember in Little League before that, in basketball, I was the point guard. I would carry the ball up the court, and then there'll always be someone better that comes out, and then I would become timid in playing. And then went to high school, wanted to play football. My freshman year, I didn't even play. I felt like I was too little, and all my friends played. And I remember what really helped me say, you know what, I'm never going to skip a year again in sports. I'm going to work harder. Was I was playing my dad in Madden. And my dad doesn't like I don't like losing. My dad doesn't like losing. And big Cowboys fan. And I said, you know what, I'm going to make him mad. And I played with the Redskins at the time. And we're talking junk to each other all the time. And when I beat him, and I was like, yeah, that's right, I beat you. And as he walked out, he said, at least I'm not afraid to play the real thing. And I was mad. He walked out the room. I started crying. And I said, you know what? Yeah, I skipped freshman year, but I'm going to prove to myself. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to start working out, lifting weights. I'm going to get bigger. And then I'm going to do what I can. So started working. I was always the one that was always going to work, figure out what can I do to get better. And then come junior year, I played varsity for the first time. So I played a little bit of linebacker, a little bit of receiver, a lot of special teams. Didn't play a lot. I wasn't a main contributor that junior year. We had a lot of great players, but I really wanted to be a contributor. And I remember my senior year, I come to the coach at the end of the junior year season, in the off season, getting ready, and I said, hey, I'm getting bigger. I want to play running back and linebacker. And he said, we'll see what we can do. Linebacker, I was thinking, we'll see what we can do about running back. And so senior year comes, 7-on-7s is going well. Weightlifting is going well. I am the starting outside linebacker. And I remember in 7-on-7 playing excellent. First padded scrimmage, playing great. And my coach said, hey, this is your position to lose. And so this was finally like me like proving to myself that I can actually do this. So this went to like the anger and the proving yourself. But with the proving yourself, I'm the starting linebacker. I'm on the same side as Spence as a corner. We're playing, the first game of the season comes, and I'm so excited. And then a hurricane comes and hits that year. And my parents had already planned a cruise on the bye week of our season, which was week 2. And they moved the game to week 2. And they moved the game to the day that we left. And so senior year, I missed that game, and a freshman, really good freshman, comes and plays linebacker. And for the entire season, until probably about the second to last game of the regular season, the coach did not give me my spot back. He didn't give me a reason why. He didn't say anything. He just says, we're playing the freshman. And I'm just like, man, like I was supposed to be there the first game. And at this time, Spencer and Tay know, like I'm always complaining to them. I've worked so hard to finally get here. I don't get here. This sucks. But every day I'm out here working. I'm out here trying. Now I'm on the scout teams playing linebacker against the first teams. I'm playing running back. I'm playing receiver against the first teams. Just trying to get my spot back. And then we played in the one of the second to last games of the season. We played against Appomattox, and I wasn't even starting yet, and I was still the freshman. And I came in because the middle linebacker had got suspended for the first quarter, and so I played middle linebacker, and I made a couple of plays. And he said, okay. The freshman got tired that game. It was a cold game, a lot of hits, a very like grindy game. And I moved to the outside linebacker, and I played there the rest of the game. And so I finally like earned my spot back, and I was like, man, this feels good to finally like prove to myself that I don't have to be a role player. And at that point, I feel like I'm averaging like 7 tackles a game. We end up playing against Dan River, and they had a guy named Trey Edmonds end up playing running back in the NFL. Was a running back at Virginia Tech, and the scouts were all there. All the Virginia Tech people were there to watch Trey Edmonds. And I said, you know what? This is the prove it game for me. I was like, I'm starting. I'm the full-time starter here. I'm gonna make a play to make sure that we do what we can to win this game. And it was cool because every time Trey ran, I was the first person to hit him on that side. And I said, you know what? He's not getting no more than 3 yards every carry on us. And I made it my point to make sure that I have something to prove to. I should have been the starter the whole time. It was just me. Part of that was anger. Part of that was proving to myself. But at that point, I mean, I didn't have any tape. And so the dream of like playing college sports was kind of dying a little bit. And then to go for that was football. For like I was my best sport at. And basketball around the same time, probably junior, senior year, I remember I was trying out for the varsity team, and there was a guy that had just graduated that said, man, Rashad should just go try for baseball because he's not going to make the team. And I said, man, no, I'm going to make this team. I'm going to prove to everybody that I can play ball. And made the team every single year, worked as hard as I could, didn't always get as much playing time. Senior year is probably when I got the most, but I knew basketball really wasn't going to be the future, but football could have been the opportunity. And Spence went off to school to play football, Devontae went off to play basketball, and here I was going to ODU not playing anything. Thought I was going to try to walk onto the basketball team, but I was like, man, am I really that good? And there, a lot of anger was starting to build up just from like just being around some of my family. There was a lot of like drama and anger and stuff that used to happen back then. And I still was trying to find my way to fit in. So I wanted to really prove myself there too. And so I decided I wanted to be a doctor. I kind of gave up the whole sports thing. I said, I'll play intramurals, I'll coach, I'll do this. But I really wanted to still be involved with sports, but I really wanted to be a doctor. And so I wanted to be a pulmonologist because I wanted to help kids with asthma. But at the same time, if I didn't make it to medical school, I didn't want to be a scientist or a teacher or a researcher. So I said, you know what, I'm going to double major with business. And at that time, I was like, hey, I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to be a doctor. And I remember I had to take organic chemistry too, and I had to take accounting too, and operations management at the same time. And those were 3 of the hardest courses we had at ODU. And I remember I got a C in organic chemistry.
and I felt like the world was crashing on me. And I felt like a failure. I felt like a reject. I felt like everything that I've been working to really prove myself was gone. I felt like anything I wanted to do to be successful is kind of out the window. And I said, you know what, we pivot, right? My dad always raised us to, whatever we do, we're going to do it 100%. If things go wrong, you're going to figure it out and you're going to adjust. And so kind of finished that, and I said, you know what, I'm working on this anger, because I'm always angry at everything. I really want to fit in. I want friends. I want people to respect me. Being at ODU is so different than being at Gretna, because it was just it was like a shell shock. And so I didn't know how to handle my emotions then either, because I was working so hard on fitting in. And then that goes to 21 to 25, and I'm post-graduated, and I'm now into the working force, and I still have these traumas that I never really worked on. This feeling of trying to prove myself still, this anger that I still have. And I remember I started working at ADP. This is when I started there, and this is kind of, if I was to title this chapter, this would be kind of figuring out my brand. And when I first started there, I wanted so bad to be the best specialist or whatever I could be. And I remember asking the trainers who was the fastest person to get promoted, and they said like the guy got promoted in 6 months or 7 months, and I said I'm going to do it in 5 because I'm going to be better than you. I'm going to cut your knees out, because I just wanted to be the best, and that was just the anger in me. And what happened was I never really learned what my brand was at that time, and so when promotions came, I didn't get the promotion. And so I realized that maybe here's where I have to change who I am to really start to grow and become a better person, because this whole time I've just been dealing with all this trauma, trying to prove myself to everybody that maybe that's not the answer. And it took me till I was 21, 22 years old. And so that's when I said I'm going to change my brand and really start to grow and develop and work on myself. And that's around this time is around the 25 time is when I really got connected with my mentors that I talked about on the past podcast. And that's when I really started learning how to work on myself and really learn how to develop a brand. And this was probably one of the biggest turning points in my life, because this is where I really start to become who I really wanted to be. I kind of threw away these fake identities that I was trying to build to fit in, and started really working on myself around this time. And this is when I was like, okay, this is what I want my brand to be. I want to be someone that helps people. And yeah, I didn't go be a doctor, but I did do business because I wanted to do HR. And I got into HR. I'm going to leadership conferences. I'm really working and developing myself. And then that goes to 26 to 30. This is why I would call this one the growth and maturity chapter. And I met my wife at 25. We're about turning 25, turning 26. And I wasn't really strong on my faith at this time. I was involved in church a lot of my life, but I really wasn't really constantly practicing or in prayer or really truly understanding what God's desires were for me. And when I met Kayla, every week we would go on and off, and she was like, I don't think I want to do this, I don't know. And then it came one day and she told me, I don't think this is going to work because I don't think you can spiritually lead me. And I was like, man, that sounds huge. And I was like, that's very important to you, and I don't know how to do that. And so I was asking people, like, how can I do that? I was asking my coaches, like, what does that mean? Like, how do I work on that? And then in that 26 to 30, and I just spent so much time continuing to work on myself, really fixed a lot of that anger that I had, the immaturity that I had, and really started getting into the Word and really understanding what God's promises were for me and how to actually be the head and lead a family physically but also spiritually. And continue to work on myself, got a lot of promotions, started to really build a brand of someone that's a fountain and not a drain, someone that's really helping others, putting others first, and realizing that there's so much more that I could do, right? One of the biggest things is making sure that dash meant something. The dash that's on your tombstone, they got the year you're born and the year you pass away, but what does the dash mean? And it was really focusing on things that can really make sure that that's something that's impactful. And that's where that growth and maturity really came in to help me get there, to the point where I was ready to be married, and, married to the love of my life. And Kayla has been the absolute rock. She has been the one that has truly helped me continue to work on growing my faith and practicing all the time, to the point to where I'm now at 31 and continuing on with everything, to the point where now I have you three here, and I've always had Spencer, but I know a lot of that growth that I had is what allowed me to connect with both of you. And I know I met Terrell first, being involved with Spencer's wedding, and then like JG said at the retreat, if I wasn't working on my faith, I wouldn't have even probably been at the retreat. And I remember seeing JG, and I was like, "Dang, this dude tall." And but it was a cool dude, and I just realized I was learning so much from him. I heard him on the Wednesday calls, but to actually meet him in person, put a face to the name, and just hear what God's doing in his life, but also doing in your all's life. That's where I realized that the growth and maturity and where I'm at is now I'm on the right track. So those page ones through page 100 to where I am today were things that really were opportunities or hurts that I really had to learn how to let go, which counseling really helped me with when I was 29 and 30, to really let go this false idea of proving myself and really understanding what proving myself actually looks like to be able to leave my family. So all over the place. I know it's not as organized as you all's were, but if I were to say, that's kind of where I'm at, and the story keeps going. There's so much more to do. That dash is going to be so much longer. It's going to be so much more that's happening, and so many more people that I'm going to help and impact. But that's 5-year increments for you, man, in chapter format.
That's amazing, man. Thanks for sharing, Shad. Really appreciate all of y'all sharing. Listening to y'all, I'm like, man, I do good on my story at all, man. I left so many things out, hearing so many similarities too, and different breakdowns and pivotal points in y'all lives and my life. One pivotal thing that I forgot to say is just like my parents, bro. They were just so involved in my life. I heard all of y'all say that, and remember, these so many things stand out in my mind. I could probably go on for hours, and I'm not going to. But just to say, I'm so thankful for them. I wouldn't be who I am today without them. And I heard y'all say the same things, but a lot of the things that stand out to me is like my dad, the affirmations, bro. Like as a dad, he made it to say like I love you every day, but he would push me to the next level in everything, in all aspects of life. That's how y'all see me show up every day. Like he really used to tell me, be good, be great. You know what I'm saying? Following what Jay-Z said. Like I remember him texting me that when I was in high school, and that really elevated me. Mom, y'all say that I'm loud, but all of that stuff come from her. Like her telling me you gotta be vocal and you gotta be able to enunciate all of your words at a high level no matter what room you walk in and all that stuff. But the key thing that I heard from everybody was sports, having the involvement of your parents, being able to try new experiences and challenge each other, also being different types of leader in your own way is very different. One thing I have to ask everybody is what stuck out in somebody else's story that you could relate to. In Spence's story, I could relate to that freshman year of college, man. Your new environment, having to adapt, and you doing things that you shouldn't be doing, and you shouldn't be doing them based on the discipline and routines that your parents and values that your parents instilled in us, right? And we just find ourselves doing those things as soon as we leave the house, as soon as we get around a new environment that we've never been around, new people, and we just start doing things that we're not used to doing. And unfortunately, that's when the devil can get a hold of us. But thank God that God kept us protected throughout those journeys, man. And that was the one thing that I could relate to right off the bat. Will Spence, all y'all stories I could relate to, but that was the one story that stood out. What about y'all?
For me, I'd say for JG, it was the transition from not being able to play sports anymore. I didn't go too deep into detail about that, but that transition from, you have 6 o'clock workouts, watching film, practice, that you have a certain routine, and then when you just stop, it's kind of difficult to kind of break that habit of getting up and practicing and going to workouts and meeting with coaches, and also that camaraderie you have with your teammates. You actually miss that. You don't get to hang out with your teammates and do the things you used to do when you stop playing sports, and that's where a lot of people's friendships come from when they play sports. And from Rashad's is his dad. Saying he had to work and earn certain things. And that stuck out with me because my dad would say the same thing. And it's his one of his favorite Bible verses is a man that don't work, don't eat. That was his favorite verse when I was growing up. And he made sure that if you don't work, you're not gonna eat. And then my mom is also setting this we talked about the standard a few episodes ago, setting that standard growing up in school. The first like 6 weeks because they would break down the school periods by 6 weeks. First 6 weeks, she wouldn't let me watch TV or play the game until those first sets of grades came out. That first report card came out. Man, then felt like the longest 6 weeks of my life. No game, no TV, no nothing. She said, first report card, we got to see what them grades like. Go from playing the game all summer to nothing. I'm going to bed at 9 o'clock. Can't watch Monday Night Football. Trying to stay up to watch football. Can't do that. Nothing. So that really stuck out to me and Rashad's story too.
I would say for me, in your story, it was when you were talking about moving, going to different schools, different than your friends. And I know I talked about how I was always moving and going, and you mentioned like you just had to adapt, like you had to get acclimated, you had to figure it out, you had to adapt. And I feel like that was me and my brother all the time. Is we're going to so many different schools, you just got to adapt. You just got to fit in with the people that are there. You got to make yourself like you've already been there for a long time, like you're one of them, because you are the outcast, right? And I think just that stuck out to me. I think the difference is that everybody where I'm from kind of knew that, with everybody being military and everybody traveling, so they kind of knew like you just kind of have this camaraderie. But I think the biggest part was like, how do I adapt when change like that happens? And I think that's something that's a lesson that we can all take today with anything. Change always happen, but how do we adapt to it in any situation? And so that really resonated with me, because I know, especially as a kid going through that, it's a lot tougher than an adult saying that right now. We just got to adapt. But as a kid, there's so much feelings, and sometimes we don't really get to feel our feelings are heard or accepted, right? And people want to do what's best for us. But we had feelings back then too, and we had to figure it out, and we had to learn. So yeah, I definitely pulled that for me, man.
Lack of choice too, bro.
Yeah,
Didn't have a choice in
did
none of
not
those
have a
decisions.
choice.
And honestly really forget how much I was like listening to y'all and I'm like I really forgot how much I had to adapt because it was just who I was, what my parents made me do, I didn't have a choice in it, so I didn't have no like JG, like you got forced into a gym and you had to stay there until it was time to go home. So what, you just not gonna play basketball? Like you just gonna sit there and shit around? And so that adjustment, Shy, like I definitely agree with you, bro. Like I forgot about it until you had said it, because I didn't even realize I had said it in the story. So now I definitely appreciate you saying that, because that is true when it come to kids, and they got feelings too, man, and we can't leave them. Have them deeper conversations with them because they do understand and they do feel things. Yeah, I feel you. Good takeaway. What about you, JG?
Yeah, my main takeaway is like what I heard from everybody in one way or another is that like we were all set apart for one reason or another. It was evident in everybody's story, like whether it was our own doing or someone else's, like we were set apart for something very specific. You know what I'm saying? And that was communicated to us over time based on our circumstances and situations that we found ourselves in. That like there was a specific purpose and calling on all of our lives, and it was just like a matter of finding it through our own individual journeys. And now, like the journey that we're on together. But I mean, from the very start, like Yerby, like you're like, oh nope, you're not going to that school. And then Rashad, you like bouncing around a little bit and just kind of your experiences like that drive to just kind of step into your moment. And you were wanting to be sports, and then you were pursuing being a doctor as well. But like it was clear that like there was something in you that you felt like there was something specific for you. And same thing, Spence, with you, just like from your childhood early on, the way that you said that you were raised and how you were connected with your family and things like that. I think everybody's individual story really spoke to me that like we are all set apart for a specific purpose at a specific time. And so that was like, it's really cool to hear your stories. And like for all of us to be able to share and listen to each other and then pull something a little bit different from each other. So yeah, really appreciate y'all sharing.
Yeah, hey, man, and everything is like it makes sense now. It's so much alignment with these these life stories that I really didn't even understand till listening to y'all now. And it's just a blessing too, bro, because everybody can't sit here and have these positive stories. You talking 0 to 30, and we talking about four black men. Rare. It's a rare. So I could really say that we all beat the odds with the support of our family, our wives, even JG with your kids, just everybody encompassing. I think it's important, man. It's so interesting though, and I gotta encourage everybody, just because you start getting back to the fundamentals of your childhood, things start really aligning. And that's what I really caught on to in everybody's story. For me, last January, I was on my deck by myself, just like thinking, like, man, what am I doing in my life? That's when it hit me, like, bro, you're not doing nothing that you're supposed to be doing or that you used to do no more. You're not doing the fundamentals. And I think that's what's missing. And a lot of development stories in life is like, yo, you got to get back to the basics, because the basics is your morals and values. And that's what pushed and drives you. And that's what made you succeed in very uncomfortable environments, because you really did everything that you was instilled in you already. You didn't focus on anything else. You just went to what you knew. You didn't focus on what you didn't know, what you were uncomfortable with. You were able to adjust because you proceeded with the things that you value and what you have been taught. And I think a lot of the times we forget, bro, because we could be put in these circumstances to where we got to try these new things and try these new experiences, and then look down the road and then we 3 years of lost time. And it's a part of our story. And the dash, that don't go away, Rashad. You know what I mean? We can't just, I shortened my story so we could get through the pod, but it's like, that's not how real life goes. You can't just skip parts. And I think when we try to skip parts unintentionally, it's because we're not doing the things that we were taught, or things that really do make us feel good and have the internal peace that we do have. That's why I love the 5-year increments exercise, because it allows you to think about stuff that you haven't thought about in a long time, and it actually shows you how far you really have come, and how many things you've been through, and how many things you persevered through as well. I'm listening to y'all again, bro, and I missed a lot of points. And I'm gonna leave it alone, because it is what it is. When you tell your story, you only gonna tell the parts that stick out to you in your mind in the moment, and then when somebody else get to talking, is when a relatability piece you can play off of, and the dialogue just is almost very overwhelming, because it's like, man, you start remembering different things, and why the relationships are so strong. Yeah, man. Any other feedback on today?
Yeah, I think this was a really cool exercise. I think it was hard for me, even though I took like a couple of notes, like the chapters of it, to kind of pinpoint me. It's like you said, there's just so much that's happened in your life that you just can't really remember, and sometimes you're mixing years together, because sometimes it's just a blur, right? And it's hard sometimes, because like in a situation like this, we want to probably tell our story. If we were on stage right now, we would happily probably tell our story, and we could tell something completely different than what we just shared just now. So it's really interesting. It's really cool that, one, we have so much to share, like we have so much experiences that help shape us, but two, that we can come here together and formulate this to a conversation where hopefully someone can pick something from the story, learn from it, or grow from it, because we're all different, but a lot of us sometimes have the same experiences. And so there's like you said, there's a lot of pieces in the stories that were relatable, because maybe something was very similar to all of us. But for our audience that'll be listening, that's gonna be cool too, because they'll probably be able to relate. Like there may be somebody who didn't understand like how they felt about traveling, being in the military, being a military brat, and not really understanding that what they did was they suppressed their feelings, which is why now it's still there, right? And now they could be like a wake up or something. So I think it's always cool opportunity for people to share their stories, because this is what we get from it. So I appreciate you, thinking of it. I guess JG actually thinking of this as the idea of wanting for us to do this 5-year increments and share it with everybody who's listening. So this is awesome, man. I appreciate y'all for this.
Yes, man. So dope. So I know I could talk for hours on this, but who else, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a helpful exercise, because not only can your story impact others who hear it, who may have had similar experiences as you, and it can really be helpful for you to just kind of see how much you've grown over the years, and kind of through your circumstances and situations that you've been in and that you've had to figure out. It's really helpful to kind of see where things started And where you're at now. I know with social media they have the thing like how it started, how it's going, or whatever. And so I liken this exercise to that. You think about how you grew up. You think about the things that happened from 0 to 5, from 6 to 10, and just how your life developed over the years to shape you into the person that you are today. And then you can also think about how much more room you have to grow, how much more you can impact the world through your gifts and your talents and your strengths, through interactions with others, and the lessons that you pass on to the next generation, whether it be it your children or nieces, nephews, other friends, where you come in contact and have a relationship with, and they have kids. Like, the things that we pass on to the next generation is going to continue to shape this world. So, it's helpful to kind of look back to see that growth and to be kind of proud of where you've come from and what you become, to kind of celebrate that a little bit. So, and I think that that's an important thing. I think that's an important thing to do. And then just looking over the time period of whatever it may be to where you are now, and then looking ahead to how much more you can accomplish and how much more you can grow and how much you can help others.
No doubt, JG. Appreciate you, bro. What you got, Spence?
Yeah, I appreciate this exercise because it's really a moment of reflection. Like JG said, show how far you've come, how much you've grown, and it makes you, go back and think about things in your past that have made you who you are now, whether it's dealing with situations like people close to you passing, or people that you may have met and no longer talk to, or jobs, sports, traveling, what, no matter where it may be, makes you go back and think, and then also triggers the memories that you may have locked away, that you don't think about as often, that you kind of, oh, this was a triggering moment. Oh, I don't want to think about this right now. So just use it as a time of reflection and kind of see, one, how far you've come, and some of the things that you may not remember or think about on a daily basis.
Appreciate you, Spence. Yeah, man, we just encouraging everybody. Gonna give some encouragement for we in this episode. Going into the holiday season for Christmas and the New Year, we just want everybody to reflect. Reflect on your journey of life. Ask yourself the question: if you had to tell somebody your life story in 5-year increments, what would you say? And just allow your time, like Spence said, to reflect on your life. See how far you've come, what you've gone through, where you're going, and what the future may hold for you, and see if you're really getting back to the basics of your values and your morals, and if you're living on it, and staying strong on your strengths, man. Like, don't focus too much on your weaknesses. Shai said, he's getting to his strengths now. It don't even matter, second string, third string, first string, it don't matter. Your strength is your strength. You're gonna be first string no matter what, because it's really just you against the world. It's just you and God. So you on the first team with God. So just make sure y'all take the time to reflect during this season, man, and just move forward into 2025. Any other type of encouragement for the week, guys?
Say, for me, my encouragement for y'all listening is embrace your story. Embrace when you're telling your story, you're thinking about your story or reflecting on it. Embrace your story. There may be times where the story just seemed like that period just seemed so dark, seemed so lonely, seemed so hurtful, seemed so whatever. I know I talked a lot about finding my identity or trying to prove that I can be something than what I already was, right? But that part of that story is why I'm who I am today, right? The entirety of my story is the reason that I'm the person that I am today, the mentor that I am today, the leader, the person that can go out and help people. And you have to realize that in your story, that's why you're who you are too. Everything that's happened in your life has helped you grow and shape you to who you are today. And I know a lot of the times, a lot of us, if not all of us, are proud of who we are today. But we have to realize we have to embrace our story for that to happen. We got to realize that there was nothing that was really a mistake in our stories. Because if those all were little puzzle pieces that we put together, that gives us the picture of who we are right now. So embrace your story when you're reflecting on it. Don't try to block out parts of your story. If there's trauma, definitely work on it and heal from it. But realize that that is part of who you are, and that's helped become the great person that you already are.
Fire. Appreciate you, Shad. All right, JG, Spence, what y'all got?
For me, especially with the holiday season coming up, just Giving thanks to the people that have impacted your life the most, impacted your story the most. Give thanks to them that you're the reason that you're where you're at. People that have helped you along your journey, shown you, giving you grace, giving you advice, a shoulder to cry on. Just give thanks to the people that have impacted your life the most, whether it be parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, no matter who it is. Just show them the appreciation that when you look back on your life, your story, the people that impacted you most, just show them that appreciation.
Appreciate you, Spence. All right, JG.
Yeah, try to take some time if you can to unplug from your normal obligations when it comes to like work and really try to enjoy time with family and friends. And I would encourage everyone to don't neglect your neighbors, whatever that means to you. Don't neglect your neighbors. Just really embrace the reason for the season and just enjoy that. This time of year hopefully can bring peace and joy to the masses as it was designed, and that you can celebrate with loved ones, enjoy the company of friends, and encourage and love your neighbors. Again, that means different things to different people. It could be your physical neighbor, or it could just be somebody that you see frequently on a day-to-day basis, whether it be through your place of employment or just a spot you frequent if you go like get coffee or something like that, your favorite restaurant. Encourage somebody during the season. I think it's a good thing to, if you can go out of your way a little bit to make sure that everyone that you encounter can experience some level of joy this holiday season. So for sure, just keep that on your radar and like I said, unplug and just really try to enjoy this season.
I appreciate y'all, fellas. Appreciate y'all sharing your life stories, man. It was great listening. Yes, we hope you guys enjoy listening today. Encourage you, of course, to tell your story to your friends and your loved ones. And just take the time to reflect during this holiday season again. We appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Wholesome Thinking, episode 5 with the 5-year increments. Of course, if you ever want to join us, please feel free to reach out to us. We're going to put our YouTube channel and stuff in our bio. You can reach out to us on there, or feel free to reach out to us on our Instagram page as well. Appreciate y'all. Hope y'all enjoy your holiday and Happy New Year.